Welcome to the Babe You've Got This podcast. My name is Kim Kent. I'm so excited for you to be listening in today. I am a sales-based business coach. I specialize in mindset, and I'm also an online business professional and network marketing professional. I love to help ambitious women who feel stuck, unclear, and tired of not getting results to achieve the skills to build a 6+ figure business and overcome all the BS that is holding them back from genuinely achieving the goals that they desire. I do this via my transformational and unique coaching experiences, plus you get all the free goodness from tuning into my podcast. I'm all about empowering and inspiring women, so I really hope that this episode today gives you so much value, so much inspiration, and gets you to think greater. If you'd love to learn more about me and check out my offerings, you can visit my website, www.kimkent.com.au. Otherwise, sit back, relax, tune in, and I really, really hope you enjoy this episode today. Hello, lovers. Welcome back to another episode of the Babe You've Got This podcast. This is such an interesting topic. It's one of my favorite topics. I have talked about it in the past, but I'm going to delve even more into it now. And I remember when I first learned about this 5 years ago. It's when I first started when I first invested in personal development, and I did the seminars. I did this seminar and fucking changed my life. And I learned about the duality in life, like how everything works in duality. And the biggest lesson, I'm sharing with you the biggest lesson first, is that whenever I've had problems or struggles or challenges in my life, when I tap into this knowledge so I can change my perspective, it literally releases the problems. It helps me completely change my perspective. And I truly believe that learning this and applying it to my life, it's actually helped me become an incredible coach, because all my clients all say one of the biggest things they get from me is the epic change of perspective, which completely opens up a different way of thinking for them. So what is duality? It stems back to, look, I am no guru on this. I'm not a physicist. I am not anyone fancy. I am technically a scientist because I do have a background with a science profession, but this is my version of explaining this. And it is in quantum physics world. The quantum physics is the explanation of this. And so everything in life is duality. The smallest measurable particle on the planet, in the world, in this universe, is an atom. An atom is the smallest measurable mass. So a piece of matter, and it is made up of energy. So at the end of the day, everything in life is made up of energy. We're made up of energy. All matter is made up of energy. And a single atom, so a hydrogen atom, which is the simplest atom, it carries a 1 electron and 1 proton. So 1 positive and 1 negative wave. Well, I don't actually know what else to call it, but the protons. One's an electron, one's a neutron. Anyway, see? Look, I told you I am not a smarty pants in this area. So it is made up of one of each of those. So there's duality. It's equal positive and negative. And in this energetic wave, half is positive, half is negative. So this energy cannot exist without the other. So you can't have one without the other. You can't just have positive without the negative, and so on. And what this does is this keeps the balance. This keeps the equilibrium. So on the greater scale of things in our life, everything works in duality. However, we are human, and we have come into this earth. We've come onto this earth in physical form and we experience life through our senses. And our senses, we've got many senses, but the 5 main ones that are very prominent in what we first learn is touch, taste, smell, hearing, touch, taste, smell, sight, and hearing. And through our senses actually can only experience a positive or negative sensation at a time. So it actually can't physically experience duality at the exact same time. What I mean by this is you can be happy, then you can be sad, but you can't physically be happy and sad in the exact same moment. So bear with me. And when I learned this, it makes so much sense, because we spend our life chasing happiness. Chasing happiness, all we want to do is be happy, happy, happy. So we're chasing the plus, 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 the positive, the positive, the positive. And all that seems to happen is we keep popping up with these sad situations and sad circumstances, and we keep seeing all the sad in our life. You can't have light without dark. You can't have day without night. Even if you look at the human body, we pretty much have 2 of everything. There's duality to keep us balancing, to keep everything balancing out. So when I learned this, as I was saying, it absolutely blew my mind, but made absolute sense. Like, it seemed like so truthful to me that it's as if I knew it all along. So if everything is made up in duality, the best thing we can do to create happiness in our life is to recognize that happiness also comes with sadness. Like, you can't have one without the other. You can't have pain without pleasure. You can't have challenge without the triumph. Or we like to chase a triumph. So you can't have triumph without challenge. So this is my best way to explain all this anyway. So when we go back to our senses and our human experience, you would say our senses are bipolar, meaning we tick-tock and oscillate between positive and negative throughout our life, throughout our day. And I feel like we have 2 parts of ourselves. We have our victim ego part of ourselves. Well, I call this our worker self, which recently I have now labeled it, due to learning new things, is our survival consciousness. And this is where our victim and our ego lives. And this is where we run around and we live our life on autopilot based on our beliefs, where we think some things are wrong, some things are right, what makes us happy, what makes us sad. And external things happen to us, so circumstances, situations, certain people do things or say things. And if we take it in a certain way that's positive or negative, that's coming from our worker, victim, ego self. Now, would you agree that when someone says something positive or a positive thing happens, we actually never want to try and change it, or we actually don't think anything's wrong, because we are addicted to the pleasure and the plus, and we want more of it. It's not until something negative happens, the pain or whatever that might be, however you might describe that, is when if we don't like it, it's our victim ego self, it's our survival consciousness responding to it, and we go into blame and shame and justify, and we're like, what's wrong? And we just don't have a good experience. Where then you have the other part of yourself, which I call higher self, which also known as thriving consciousness. And higher self is the ability to step out of the situation and not experience it bipolarly. I don't know how to say that word. But instead of experiencing it just as a negative or just as a positive, the higher self can look at the situation and be like, right, yes, that hurt my feelings, but what was the lesson? What was the gift in it? Or, you know what, perfect example. You're so excited, you're going traveling, and you get to the airport, you're just so ecstatic, and you're about to board the plane, and you realize you can't find your passport. And then you start to freak out and go crazy and start to stress, and you feel like all the positivity is just gone out the window and this negative has happened. This is the universe bringing you back into duality. This is the duality of life. And your higher self would go, Well, because you were so overly ecstatic, something had to happen to bring you back into balance. So this is constantly happening through our life. Now, if you think of it as a spectrum, you got positive on one side, negative on the other. Some people live on the very edges of the spectrum, so they can tick tock and go have really high highs and have really low lows, and they're living life on the end of the spectrum, so they're less in balance and in tune. Where as you start to do the work and get more connected to higher self and understand this and able to see the duality in every present moment, you come closer to the midline. So yes, you experience happy and sad, but the jumps or the roller coaster isn't as big. You're actually more in balance, which I've actually, since I did this work and started to practice this, I started to feel like, I actually was on the phone with my coach and I was like, something actually really sad happened in my life. And to be honest, it was so long ago, I can't remember what the sad thing was, but I think someone passed away. And not in the immediate family, but a friend's, I think so, or something happened. But I remember the phone call with my coach, and he was like, I was like, I just don't feel as sad as I should be, or as emotional as I should be. And he's like, well, Kim, you've done the work to regulate and see the duality in life, that your lows aren't going to be as low and your highs aren't necessarily going to be as high. But the closer you are to the midline of the spectrum, that's the closer you are to love. So love to me is the perfect balance of positive and negative. When you're in a state of love and gratitude, you can see the positive and the negative. You can be grateful for the positive and for the negative. So it's in the most balanced space. So I just think this is so cool. So with that, now understanding that life works in duality, it's one of the best tools. It allows me to pull myself out of my funks and also balance me if I'm getting too elated or too excited and too far on the positive spectrum, because I have been there. I actually remember this one time, it was my 26th birthday, and I'd only just started learning about this stuff, and I remember having the absolute best time, best time. And I was living in this house opposite the ocean, and it was just a short walk down to the strip of bars and clubs on the beach. And we all walked down there, and I was like, sweet, I can just walk home. This is amazing. So I walked myself home once the end of the night, and I had a bit to drink, but I wasn't too boozy. And I remember coming home and walking up the driveway, and I didn't want to go to bed yet. I didn't want my night to end. And so I sat on the driveway and looked at the ocean, and I was just sitting there, and I thought I'd check my phone, and I went and checked my messages, and I actually received this message from a family member. And it was a parent-in-law, and it actually was having a go at me for not inviting her to my birthday. And immediately it fully brought me down, because my ego victim self, I went into survival consciousness, and my survival consciousness wanted to defend myself and be like, well, first of all, I didn't invite any family. It was all friends, and we were going clubbing up across the beach. I'm not going to go clubbing with my parents at 26 years old. No, thank you. But then I stopped, and I attuned into higher self, into thriving consciousness. I'm like, hang on. Before I get my back up and before I attack and defend and do all those things, what's really going on here? And it hit me, and the wave of gratitude just came over me, because this was still such a new discovery for me. And I remember just, all of a sudden just being so grateful in that moment, because I realized I had such a high. I had such an elated night. It was so fun, all the positive, and something negative had to happen to bring me back into balance, to humble me out. And so I was actually really grateful for that message. And I didn't even reply to it, because that wasn't my shit. That was her shit. She was projecting her stuff onto me. And that's okay. And yeah, now I've totally given it away. of who it would be, but whatever, keeping it real. This happened. I'm not lying, so whatever. Now I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Yeah, I left it. I stepped out of, there's no point me getting into that where it was, this is just humbling me, and thank you for this lesson. And I allowed myself to be humbled and in balance, and it just felt really good. And I'm very proud of that moment, because it's the first time I ever implemented this higher state of consciousness when it was someone else pulling me down or someone else saying something negative to me. So now, fast forward time, whenever I encounter negative words or a negative circumstance, well, I'm not perfect. I'm only human. Trust me, my survival consciousness wants to kick in. And I've spent a lot of my life in survival mode, especially the first main chunks of my life was in survival consciousness. So I automatically wanted to go into survival mode and retaliate and be a victim and defend and do all those things. But now I have this skill where I stop myself and I go, what's the real truth? What's really going on here? What can I learn from this? What is the gift in this? Am I actually in the wrong? And I look at it and I'm like, if I'm genuinely in the wrong, I'll apologize or whatever. I'll always take responsibility, because at the end of the day, even if I personally wasn't actually in the wrong from a greater sense of thing, I still did something that hurt or whatever. It did something negative. It created a negative experience for someone else or something else. And so I had to take responsibility of that. Like, how could I do that better? Or how could I come from more love? So I love this topic about duality. If you can, remember this. And maybe you need to listen to this episode over and over again. But I want you to remember this and take this away. It's the simple thing that life is in duality. And the universe is working for us. Life is always working for us. Otherwise, we'd die. It's as simple as that. There's no other way to say it. If life didn't want us to live, it would find every way for us to die. So life wants us to live. We just experience it as humans through our senses, and we can only experience one side of the spectrum at a time. So we experience the ups and we experience the downs, and it is all part of life. But it's about allowing ourselves to step into thriving consciousness and see that everything is a gift and everything comes in duality. And the thing is, the more evolved you are, the more intense the negative, but the more intense the positive. So the people you see who you believe might be thriving, or actually have all this positivity and all these huge wins and huge success, equally have had just as great challenge and negativity and hurdles to get through. But they understand that that's the duality and it comes equally, and they can't have the one without the other. And it's all about choosing then how to respond to it. So I think I've explained that the best I can, purely because I love this topic, and you can just go so far into the science, but I'm not here trying to go into the quantum physics of it all and all of that side of things. This is just my layman's terms explanation of it that helps me grow through life and grow through situations. And I know for a fact that if you ask one of my bestest friends or close family members who have known me for over a decade or more, when they used to know me as the person who always was in survival consciousness and always was in victim mode, blame, shame, and justify, always felt like everything was negative, and then would chase the happiness, chase the positive, and be up and down, and to now being this human who always changes the perspective on things, always looks for a broader perspective and looks for the love and takes responsibility and doesn't want to blame others or other situations. And I'm actually really proud of the person I've become of this one simple understanding and then application and implementation into my life. Now, it is simple, but it doesn't mean it's easy. You have to practice this. It's like going to the gym. Go to the Duality gym. Go to it every single time you feel out of balance. And how this can work from when you're in more of a negative experience, look for the positive. It is there. But you can also do this to balance you out so you don't attract the negative or a huge negative that will knock you or put you into survival consciousness. When you are experiencing huge success and happiness and elation and triumph, all the positive, you're allowed to bring yourself into more of a constructive criticism point of view. So I call it constructive criticism. I do feel like it has a negative connotation to the word, but it's not. It's what you make of it. But you can constructively criticize yourself to see what could have been done better. Where could you have loved more, been more grateful, growing more from it? So it's balancing out that elation so you then don't attract something negative outside of yourself. You're bringing a potentially negative, I don't want to say negative, but for lack of a better word, negative side of it to balance out the too high of a thing. And this actually happened, I'll give you an example. So I was doing the third seminar of this series, and it was a day where the group were in, we had to go out and sell and go make money. And I had a product at the time that I could sell, and I am really good at selling on the phone. I have a really, really high conversion rate, almost 100%. And we had to sell this product. It's a whole food health product that I still work with. And one of my group members gave me a friend, like, yep, they'd be interested. Here's their number, give them a chat. I've asked them if they want to know more. And I was on the phone. It took 20 minutes, but I was building rapport. I've never talked to this person in my life. And he ended up signing up to the full package of the product. I was so excited because we were aiming to hit this target of how much money we could make. It was all part of this challenge. And I came out of the room and I was like, oh my God, yeah. And all my group members, there's about 5 of them, and they were like, the energy was just down, and they're like, you could have done that quicker, Kim. And at first, my bubble burst. I was just like, are you fucking kidding me? Am I not good enough? Like, it hit all of those, like, why was that not good enough? Look what I just did. And then in that moment, I realized as they were saying it, they're like, no, we just said that was great. We just said that because we knew you would come out on a high, and we wanted to humble you so nothing else humbled that was out of our control. And I was like, oh my God, of course. And that makes so much sense. And since experiencing that, I do my absolute best to do this every single time I come out on a high. So I really hope that you listening to this maybe sends off some light bulbs in your head, or you just have some more aha moments. But just understand that we are made up of energy. Energy is both positive and negative. A wave of energy has a positive phase and a negative phase. Physically, that is the word. You physically cannot have one without the other. Hence why it's called physics. Well, in my opinion anyway. Maybe it's not the why, but that makes sense. And you cannot have one without the other. And if you try and fight it and hide it and run from it, you're just going to attract it back in to keep you into balance, because life is all about balance and equilibrium. Our body runs off an equilibrium. It brings it to a homeostasis. So this is such a powerful tool. If you are like, Kim, how do I get into my higher self? This is one way to start. What you can start practicing is start to find the duality in life. You might get a little bit obsessed with it at the start, and that's okay. I feel like I got really obsessed with it and whatnot, but you could tell me a scenario that you're struggling with right now, and I could literally flip and change your perspective straight away for you, because I can find the duality. And it's all because of practice. But what it does, it just takes away the epic highs and the epic lows, and you feel like you're in more state of flow and abundance and gratitude and prosperity, because you're seeing both sides of it. And it's a well-known fact that the more grateful you are, the more you receive. And we want to be grateful. If I ask anyone, oh, do you want to be grateful? Or would you love to be grateful? They're not going to say no. Everyone wants to be more grateful and feel grateful, because it feels so fucking good when we're there. So having this ability to see the duality of life and understand that everything happens in duality no matter what, and then you can choose where to put your focus and be thankful for all the lessons and all the gifts along the way. Your life literally gets better. Your life evolves. You feel more abundant. You feel wealthier. It's the best feeling. So, my task for you is, are you going through something right now that you're struggling with, or there's a family member who's really pissing you off, or the circumstance happened that you really did not like, or it hurt your feelings, or it made you sad. Understand that you're in survival mode right now, and you're allowed to feel the pain from it. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. So understand that there is pain, but how can you find the duality in it? How can you take yourself out of the situation, step into higher self, change the perspective? What did this negative experience teach you? What did it give you? What is a positive outcome or positive gift that has come from it? What have you learned? This is such a simple task to start with, because it's easier for us to think of the negative times instead of the positive times. Or maybe you want to go one step further. Where is the time that you've been super elated and someone has come and burst your bubble? So then you can appreciate that, look, that was just duality happening. That was not someone trying to be an asshole. So yeah, I'd love to know how you go with this. If you have any questions or anything at all, reach out to me on social media. More than happy to chat. I'd love to know of any of your experiences with this. I think it's really powerful. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Thank you for tuning into this episode. I'm so grateful that my voice landed in your ears, and hopefully you got epic value out of this. Now, it would mean the absolute world to me if you could share this, be a part of the bigger mission and the bigger vision of empowering more women just like you to receive this gold and create those changes in their life that you and I both know they need as well as us. And you can also leave me a review. That would be absolutely amazing. I would be over the moon. You can head on over and leave me a review. And you can also check out my offerings at www.kimkent.com.au, or make sure you're following me on social media. My handle is @KimKent and then 2 underscores. Can't wait to chat next time.